All right.
Good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters and the East Bay Media Group forums for the candidates for East Providence in 2022 for the primary election. We're going to start our evening with the two candidates for Senate District 14, Val Lawson and Megan Duckworth. This forum should last up to an hour and be followed by a forum between Matt Dawson and San Chappelle, who are running for House District 65. Which is being vacated by Greg Amore, who's running for Secretary of State. Democracy depends on educated voters, and the purpose of this forum is for the candidates to answer questions that you have submitted so you can make an informed choice when you vote on September 13th. Although I remind you, you can start voting this year early, in person, at the town offices, starting August 24th in 2 days. Scott Pickering, the general manager of the East Bay newspapers, is our moderator tonight. My name is Susan Eschrick, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters, along with our wildcard tracker, Mary Chase, and our timers, Joanne and Tom DeVoe. The League of Women Voters has been holding candidates forums at local, state, and national levels since women got the vote in 1920. The League never supports or opposes candidates. The League also does voter registration drives and studies issues important to their locality, states, and the nation. We reach consensus and we advocate for positions developed by this process. We invite you to learn more about the League by visiting our website at this address. Consider joining us. Tonight, our veteran moderator, Scott Pickering, general manager of the East Bay Media Group, will be asking questions that have been submitted by the public, the campaigns, and League members, and which address issues that are important to these constituencies. Questions may be combined or paraphrased at the moderator's discretion. Each candidate will have the same amount of time to speak. Each gets an opening and closing statement and will be asked an equal number of questions. Each candidate also gets 4 additional chances of 30 seconds each that he or she can use to expand on any issue, bring up a new subject, or lengthen his or her closing statement. Timers and recorders will alert the candidates of their time remaining and to ensure that each gets equal time. And now I turn the program over to Scott Pickering.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the inclusion of veteran into my title because I have done a few of these, although you'd think a veteran would have better environment that I currently have relegated to my son's bedroom on the 2nd floor of my house because my wife had a conflict tonight. She's out, and as we do this, 4 teenagers are downstairs making dinner without me. So any sign of smoke or anything, I'll be bolting out of the room. But hopefully they'll hold off, and I'll get through this unscathed. So we are here with the Senate District 14 Democratic candidates who will meet each other in a primary vote a few weeks from now. As Susan said, we're going to start with opening statements of up to a minute or more if you choose to go longer. We drew numbers ahead of time. Valarie Lawson, you are the first to kick us off, so the floor is yours.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate and to those of you watching at home. My name is Val Lawson and I'm running for re-election to be the senator for District 14. I've lived in this community my entire life and I'm proud to be a townie. I understand this community because I'm a part of this community. I've been fortunate to work with thousands of students and families as an educator in East Providence for the last 32 years. My career began as a social studies teacher at Martin Junior High School, and today I'm a civics teacher at my alma mater, East Providence High School. I'm also an elected leader in my union and have been an advocate for working families and education my entire life. It's been an honor and privilege to represent you in the Rhode Island Senate since 2018. We've accomplished so many great things, but there's so much more to accomplish. And that's why I'm asking for your support and vote today. I care deeply about our community. I believe in the power of everyday people coming together to create good public policy and makes a difference in everyday lives. That's why I ran in 2018. I've demonstrated this in the past 4 years with your support. And I hope you'll join me in that effort again. And I'd be honored to have your support on September 13th.
Thank you. And next, Megan Duckworth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Duckworth. Thank you so much for organizing this and for holding it tonight. I am, if you don't know, not from East Providence. I grew up down the street in Boston. So different, but similar. And something that I've reflected on in the years that I've lived here is how well I have been able to get to know people. These conversations that I've had that come to mind are from varied places: my home, in the hospital where I'm training to be a doctor, or when I've been knocking hundreds of doors. But they all have a shared commonality that people are looking for someone who will listen and someone who will share in their hope for progress. I think of a dear friend who lost his wife. I think of a man who was a victim of gun violence and feared retribution. I think of a woman who has worked her entire life in East Providence and is experiencing homelessness. These are the kinds of people who are looking for help from their elected officials, and I hope to be the person that can do that. I would be privileged to have your support on September 13th.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to questions now. We're going to follow the same order. So Ms. Lawson, we're going to start with you. So I'm going to ask a question. Each candidate has a minute to respond to the same question. And then if either candidate wants to go back and forth or have any follow-up or reply to anything that their opponent said, just let me know. I'll call on you and you'll have the chance to do so. So first question, Ms. Lawson. If elected, what are your top priority policies that you will introduce and push in the coming legislative session?
There are, sorry.
No, I thought you were on, I thought you muted. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So for my top priorities, there are so many things that we need to get done, but one of the top priorities I have is, I have a SNAP incentive bill that became a part of this year's budget as a pilot program. And I'd like to see that to become a permanent in our state. This is a nationwide program. It's a retail SNAP incentive program for recipients on SNAP. They could go to a place like Stop and Shop or Shores, and they're eligible for a 50% match on fruits and vegetables when they purchase $1. So we know people are facing food insecurity. This will increase their purchase power and give them the opportunity to eat healthy.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Duckworth, same question.
Thank you. I am a big fan of the issue of dealing with housing insecurity, so I am a fan of that bill. But when I'm knocking doors, I'm hearing that it's more than food insecurity. I'm hearing that people are trying to figure out, how do I pay for my healthcare, my rent, and my cost of living, my food, my gas. And so I think that chief priority there has to be addressing the affordable housing crisis. So that would be a top priority for me. And I think you can do that two ways. First is making the housing that we already have affordable to people. Families and senior citizens are talking to me about this all the time. And so one way to do that is instituting a rent cap. So no more than 4% rent increase every year. No one will be getting surprised by $300 or $400 increases in their rent. And the other way to do that is to make more housing. So we could think about redevelopment and zoning laws to make that possible in East Providence.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay, we'll move to a new question. Ms. Duckworth, we'll start with you this time. Question is, do you support a woman's right to choose her reproductive health care, including the right to have an abortion? Also, do you support the Equality in Abortion Act, which would remove Rhode Island laws that prohibit insurance plans for state employees and Medicaid recipients from including abortion and coverage in their state-issued insurance plans?
Thanks for asking this question. I absolutely do. In my training, I am hoping to become an obstetrician, a gynecologist, being able to both deliver babies and also provide full spectrum care. So abortion care is part of that, and that decision is no easy one. I absolutely also support the EACA. I think that abortion is healthcare, and voting against the EACA in terms of not qualifying it as healthcare. What happened in the Senate, it was voted to be kept with the Judiciary Committee, which Senator Lawson supported, is a vote against abortion as healthcare. And I think that we need to remedy that this next session.
Ms. Lawson.
I absolutely support a woman's right to choose. That was one of the reasons I ran in 2017. I took on a 20-year incumbent when I announced was a part of Senate leadership. I voted to codify the Reproductive Healthcare Privacy Act, and I've been a co-sponsor of the EACA my entire time in the Senate. And the procedural vote on a committee is not a vote against a bill. It's a procedural thing, and that's not how, it doesn't reflect my opinion on that. I'm a full supporter of that. My record shows that, and I hope we pass it next term.
Thank you.
May I follow up with that? I would wonder why you wouldn't vote to put it in the Health and Human Services Committee. And then I would also ask just why you would support a Senate president who was anti-choice, given what sounds like a strong history of being a pro-choice proponent.
Ms. Lawson, do you want to respond? In the format of the—
I'm sorry, was I not?
No, it's fine. The format of the program is not really for the two of you to talk to each other, but
okay.
I think this is fair. And I think Ms. Lawson, if you'd like to reply, please do.
When I first arrived at in the Senate, there was no leadership vote, and the Senate president was the person in charge when we took the Reproductive Healthcare Privacy Act. So although I don't agree with all of his views, he allowed that to come to the floor, and we need to all work together to move legislation along. Same with the ECAC.
We're good? Okay. We'll move to a new question with Ms. Lawson. You're starting this. Do you support a ban on the sale and ownership of assault weapons? What would you push for any changes to Rhode Island's current gun laws?
I would support the ban, and as well as I support safe storage legislation. I think we've made considerable progress along the way with the 3 bills that I voted for this session. But those 2, I think, are the next steps we need to take. And I was proud also to vote on the banning of guns in schools as well. And as a teacher, I know how important that is.
Ms. Duckworth.
I too would support the ban on the sale and ownership of assault weapons. As someone who has been in the emergency department on a Friday night in the summertime, you see more gunshot wound victims than you'd ever want to in your life. And I think this is an extremely important piece of legislation. Things I would add on also include a safe storage law, banning ghost guns and straw purchases for guns would be important as well. The gun show loophole would be important. I think that a safer community is something that we need, and gun safety legislation is key.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Duckworth, we're going to start with you on the next question. We have clear evidence of climate change all around us. Do you believe Rhode Island is doing enough to think long-term about climate change? What would you try to accomplish if elected?
So I completely agree with this. And I think that we need legislators who have a real sense of urgency. I have done climate work outside of policy for years, and I am hoping to have a greater impact in the role that I would have as state senator. I think we need to rapidly de-escalate our propensity to rely on fossil fuels. So the renewable energy standard is really important. Moving up our goals from the most recent climate legislation would be important. We're at risk on the coast of flooding and sea level rise. And I think that's something that, as a small state that we are with so much coastline, needs to be a priority for us. In addition, I would be supporting a Green New Deal. It's not something that I think that any one person can make happen alone, which is why I'm running with a slate of candidates with a similar policy. What that would mean is increasing our solar panel usage, building 10,000 affordable green homes, which would also address the housing crisis, and working on a just transition for any workers who are working in the fossil fuel industry so that they could be paid for 2 years and also receive vocational training in the next iteration of our energy world.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson, same question.
I think Rhode Island has a great pathway with the Act on Climate, which I voted in favor of, and we need now to work on meeting the goals of the Act on Climate. I also supported legislation for 100% renewable energy, offshore wind energy, and even this year in our budget supported a $35 million project on the South Key that's going to assemble wind turbines. And that's something I think we need to invest in. It's also a way to create good jobs in here in East Providence. It'll come in by water, it will leave. So I think these are some of the directions we need to go. And obviously we need to look at electric vehicles and making infrastructure for that and roads too as well. So we need a combination of these efforts.
One thing that I think is really important to note is that we need legislators who are not taking any money from fossil fuel lobbyists, nor giving tax breaks to fossil fuel production. So in East Providence, Senator Lawson brought a bill that gave a $400,000 a year tax break to ExxonMobil here. When people are dealing with their property taxes rising, but ExxonMobil is getting a break, it doesn't make any sense in the face of climate change.
Ms. Lawson?
So actually the ExxonMobil tax treaty was brought with a city council resolution, and it wasn't a tax break for Exxon, it was a tax break for the citizens of East Providence because it saved them almost $6 million because there was a dispute over the valuation of their property. Exxon won that and the city negotiated that deal to save taxpayers. So it was in the best interest of the community, not Exxon.
Okay, just for our record keeping, I have recorded 3 wildcards for each candidate to this point. So so each one has used 3, and we'll definitely add some to the form as we go. So we'll be using more than 4, I'm sure. All right. We're going to move to a new question. We're going to start with Ms. Lawson. Staying in the realm of energy here. Rhode Island Energy is proposing a approximately a $50 per month rise in electricity bills to homeowners this year. What can the legislature do to keep electricity rates down? Can the savings from our wind and solar investments be used to offset rates for everyone?
Right, so I think that's a great point you make, that it highlights the need for us to move to renewable energy. We need to do that. Wind is certainly a place that we can do that, and East Providence is a place to start that. And I think that's our long-term goals, that transition. But short-term right now, I think we need the PUC and the Attorney General to investigate this and to minimize the damage and make sure the proposed rate, to verify the cost, the proposed rate increases, because it's too much for ratepayers.
Ms. Duckworth.
I have a very similar perspective on this. I'm hearing when I'm knocking the doors how difficult it is for people to pay their bills, and having a double the rate increase on this, let alone thinking about how much people's water is costing right now, is too much. It's just too much. And so I would agree. I love the idea of using some of our wind and solar savings to offset the cost for people. And it only emphasizes and underscores more the urgency around reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and increasing our reliance on renewable energy sources.
All right. Next question, Ms. Duckworth, starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you support, quote, Medicare for all, where all medically necessary healthcare would be provided for everybody and paid for by the government?
Yes, absolutely. As I have no illusions that I personally will be able to make that happen, but I will fight for that in our government. And like I said, with a shared group of people who are running on the same platform, so that hopefully we can make things happen together. I think that at a minimum, as someone who's in medicine and seeing every day that my patients can't afford medications that they need, they're getting declined by insurance to cover life-saving medications and screenings, even though we know that it's medically necessary. And then on the flip side, my colleagues, the doctors I'm training with, are on the phones trying to deal with prior authorization and getting rid of that structure where private health insurance companies and pharmaceutical industries are making money off of people's ill health is a dream of mine. And I think we do have to dream big like that. Another priority there is making sure there's full body care. We have a tendency to separate out different aspects of our health when in reality, this is one whole system. So we need to be making sure that people's eyes are covered, vision, dental, health, and mental care is all a part of their insurance package. Lastly, we need to be making sure that Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement rates, before we get to this universal healthcare goal, are on par with the private health insurance companies so that there is a wider market for patients who are on Medicare and Medicaid.
Ms. Lawson.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Would you support, quote, Medicare for all, where all medically necessary health care would be provided for everybody and paid for by the government?
I too have a similar position. I voted for a resolution in the Senate for to encourage the federal delegation to investigate this. And I think this is a long-term something that we need to do. I agree. We did increase Medicare reimbursement rates. We have continued to work to do on that in Rhode Island. We've done some other things that I think help people along the way. Capping insulin, telemedicine is something that expands coverage for people and access. And that's what we want to make sure people have access and opportunity. I've introduced legislation to create a catastrophic illness fund to help those who have catastrophic illness pay for medical expenses that aren't covered, as well as a bill on pediatric insurance that gets signed into law for children.
Thank you.
I would also add that I would not be in favor of any budgets that are put forward that cut access to Medicaid or slash that budget, which has been the budgets that have passed that Senator Lawson has signed on for whatever the reasons. But that is something that I just could not support.
Response?
I fully support that for Medicaid reimbursement. And that's something we really need to do. Rhode Island, and in Rhode Island, we vote on a full budget package. And over the years, we've made up for that in the last couple of years. But like I said, we still need to do that. That's part of the budget process on the Senate side, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. And we're up to date on our wild cards. We've used 5 and 4, so that is accurate. We have 2 more questions, and the next question starts with Ms. Lawson. Do you support increased state funding for senior centers, Meals on Wheels, and respite care for caregivers? Why or why not?
Can you repeat it again? I'm
yeah.
Sorry.
Do you support increased state funding for senior centers, Meals on Wheels, and respite care for caregivers? Why or why not?
I do support increased funding for senior centers, Meals on Wheels, right? Part of my SNAP incentive, which impacts over 140,000 Rhode Islanders, a lot of people that are on SNAP are elderly people. So that's one way a program to address that. Meals on Wheels is another. And senior centers are great for our seniors. I've been an active member, active supporter of the senior center in East Providence. And I think it's a great way to address seniors' needs.
Ms. Duckworth.
I totally agree, honestly. I have talked to so many of our senior citizens in the community, some really fun phone conversations, 90-year-olds, and people are feeling left behind and feeling, I think, lonely, and also feeling the squeeze in terms of rising cost of bills and living on a fixed income. So I would absolutely support more state funding for for seniors, including for senior centers, Meals on Wheels, and respite care. In addition, I think that, yes, I just think that a bill that would show support in really real, tangible ways and create community for our seniors when people have been feeling so isolated for so long throughout the pandemic would be wonderful.
And I just would like to add, I did vote for the bill that increased funds to allow seniors to get reimbursements to age in their home. And I think we need to do more of that in Rhode Island. And I think that's a great way to allow people to live in their end of life in dignity.
Thank you. All right, it's actually our last question of the forum. So Ms. Duckworth, we're going to start with you. Switch to a different type of topic. What should the General Assembly do to bring more jobs to Rhode Island?
That's a great question. I think that, for starters, we've touched on this, but our work we can do on climate change in Rhode Island could be a huge area to bring in, bring work to Rhode Island, right? Job creation. I think another way to do it is to actually support small businesses here. I hear from so many who are thinking about just creeping over the border into Massachusetts because the cost of running a small business is lower there. That and property taxes and income tax. And so people are really struggling in that way. So I would encourage supporting small business creation here, which will provide jobs for people around us.
Ms. Lawson?
And one of the bills that I've introduced is an extension of Rhode Island Promise, and it allows the last third and fourth year at Rhode Island College for people to get free tuition and care economy jobs. So these are jobs like teachers, social workers, healthcare, in areas that we really need people to be. There's becoming a shortage, and this is a way to provide jobs that also provide a good living wage. So it's a way to incentivize people to go into areas that we need. And that's just one way. And we're increasing an educated workforce. I also had previously mentioned the South Key in that piece, as well as I've also introduced legislation for a local winery. So it can, small business legislation, so they can sell on premises.
Okay. Thank you both for getting us through that smoothly. We're going to move to closing statements. We're going to begin. Ms. Lawson, you're going to go first. I'm going to add another minute of time to each candidate. So with the 30-second closing statements and another minute, you'll each have a minute and a half for your closing statements. Ms. Lawson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And thanks again to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this debate. And special thanks to all of you who participated in the process and watching. I'm a townie. I have a deep connection and understanding of this community. I lived here my entire life and taught here for 32 years. I'm extremely fortunate to have worked with so many students and families over the years, and to have served as your senator since 2018. I'm proud of my record in the Senate. I've shared many accomplishments. Some of the things I have accomplished didn't have a chance to share with you. I'm very proud of my work around education as a teacher. I have a bill that was signed into law last year that'll be taking effect this year to provide feminine hygiene products in schools 5 through 12. I also sponsored legislation, went into law that gave temporary caregivers, expanded the number of weeks in Rhode Island that they are able to have off. But we still need work to do on that bill. So we need to extend the number of weeks, as well as to increase the number of people that are eligible. We'd like to add people to be able to caregive for children, grandchildren, and siblings. It's been my honor and privilege to represent you in the Senate. I believe in public service. I believe in the power of people coming together and creating good public policy, which I think that we've done together. I humbly ask for your vote on September 13th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Duckworth.
Thank you. And thank you all who are listening in and for organizing this tonight. It's been a pleasure. As I hope you've heard, I've been listening to what matters to the people of East Providence and to what we need. I'm grateful for Senator Lawson's service for the past 2 terms, but from what I've heard from people, they're ready for a change. They're ready for new ideas, and I hope to be entrusted with that responsibility. I can't look back at my political accomplishments because this is my first time running, but I think that's actually an asset. I don't have the comfort of feeling like I can handle this. This is me trying to learn as much as possible to do the best job that I can for the people of East Providence. I also have no ties to lobbyists. I don't take any money from private health insurance companies, from fossil fuel industries. I'm only accountable to you, the voters of East Providence, and I hope that that is something that you would value. Again, I will continue to listen. What I'm hearing is that we need to focus on affordable housing. People are worried about having a livable climate. People want to fully fund education and are interested in healthcare for all. These are absolutely big tasks, and I have no illusions that I can make them happen on my own, but I'm interested in working with a team that we can make this happen with a whole new government. I hope to bring some energy and hope to this position, and I would be honored to be entrusted with this responsibility in East Providence. It would be a privilege if you supported me on September 13th. Thank you.
Great. All right, thank you both. So for the audience, we're going to stop this forum. Thank both our candidates. We're going to shuffle it around for a moment. We're going to bring in 2 more candidates, and we're going to stop the recording.